everyone, I'm Feba, and in today's tutorial, we are going to see the solutions of pure strategy game. In this tutorial, we are going to see what are the terms used and the Minimax and the Maximin Principle, and mainly the pure strategy. What is pure strategy and what are the examples, and last but not the least, about the conclusion towards that particular problem. Now let's see the terms used. There are different terms used in this pure strategy. The first term used is strategy. A strategy for a player has been defined as a set of rules or alternative courses of action available to him in advance by which player decides the course of action that he should adopt. In simple words, we can say that it can be defined as a rule or plan of action for playing a game. An optimal strategy is one which provides with the best payoff for a player in a game. The second term used is pure strategy. A pure strategy is a decision in advance for all plays always to choose a particular course of action. It is a predetermined course of action. The player is known it in advance. We can see what is pure strategy in the further slides. Next term is payoff matrix. A payoff matrix is a table in which strategies of one player are listed in rows and the strategies of the other player in columns, and the cells show payoffs to each player such that the payoff of the row player is listed first. In simple words, we can say that a payoff matrix is considered as an important tool in game theory because it summarizes the necessary information and helps us determine whether a dominant strategy or Nash equilibrium exists. The next term used is saddle point. Saddle point of a payoff matrix is that position in the payoff matrix where the maximum coincides with the minimax. Payoff at the saddle point is the value of the game. In a game having a saddle point, optimum strategy of maximizing player is always to choose the row containing the saddle point, and for minimizing player is to choose the column containing the saddle point. If there are more than one saddle point, there will be more than one solution. The next term is maximin. Maximin is the largest value that a player can guarantee when he does not know the strategies of any other player. The maximin is the smallest value of the other players can force player to receive while knowing player strategy. The maximin is the largest of the smallest values in each row. The next term is minimax. Minimax is a decision rule used to minimize the worst case potential loss. In other words, we can say that a player considers all of the best opponent responses to his strategies and select the strategy such that the opponent's best strategy gives a payoff as large as possible. Let's see what is Maximin Principle. So, Maximin strategy is the one in which a player or organization maximizes the probability of minimum profit so that the degree of risk can be reduced. Here the maximizing player lists worst possible payoffs of all his potential strategies and chooses that strategy which corresponds to the best. This is maximum principle. So, there is a criteria for Maximin Principle. Now let's see what is that criteria. The maximizing player lists his minimum gains from each strategy and selects the strategy which gives the maximum out of these minimum gains. The next one is Minimax Principle. Minimax strategy is the one in which the main objective of a player is to minimize the loss and maximize the profit. It is a type of mixed strategy. Therefore, a player can adopt multiple strategies. This strategy can be applied to complex as well as simple decision-making process. Now let's see what is the Minimax criteria. The criteria for Minimax principle is the minimizing player lists his maximum losses from each strategy and selects the strategy which gives him the minimum loss out of these maximum losses. Now we are going to deeply study about pure strategy. In a pure strategy, players embrace a strategy that produces best payoffs. It is considered as the best strategy for every player of the game. By choosing pure strategy, the player decides on how to play in all possible situations. In this strategy, decisions are made at different positions, but they do not know when they have been made. Now let's see an example to know more about pure strategy. Now let's move on to the example. Here we have a numerical question. So, player A can choose his strategies from A1, A2, A3, while B chooses from B1 and B2. Rules of the game state that payment should be made in accordance with the selection of the strategies given below. Which strategy should player A and B select to get optimum benefits of the play? So, here in the table we have a strategy pair and the payments. Now let's understand what the question is. We have two players, that is A and B. Both have different strategies to play. So A has three strategies, that is A1, A2 and A3, and B has two strategies, that is B1 and B2. Now the result depends upon the strategies they select. If player A selects A1 and player B selects B1, at that time A has to pay ₹2 to B. Similarly, A selects A1 and B selects B2, B pays ₹12 to A. Now so on and so forth. Now let's see what will be the solution for this particular problem. Using this table, we have to construct a payoff matrix. The payoff matrix consists of player A and B with their strategies, that is A1, A2, A3 and B1 and B2. Now let's fill out these values in the blank spaces. Now let's select the values. Let's take the first row, that is A1 and B1, where A pays ₹2 to B. Now we will check the value is in negative or positive. So remember, when A is paying to B, A is going into loss rate. Due to this, the value should be depicted as negative because we are looking in from player A's perspective over here in this example. So, where A is going to maximize his gains and player B is looking into minimize his loss. Okay? So, wherever A is paying to B, we put it as negative, otherwise as positive. So, we are writing here that is -2. Now move to next row in the table. We can see that A selects A1 and B selects B2, where B pays ₹12 to A. In this, A is gaining, so we can write 12 as a positive value. Similarly, now let's fill out all the values in the payoff matrix. We have written all the values here. Now moving to step 2. In step 2, we have to write or we have to find the maximum of columns and the minimum of rows. Here we have 3 rows and 2 columns with values. So let's take the minimum of rows from each row, and for maximum of column, we have to take the maximum of each column. Now, to find out the minimum of row, we are going to take the values from the first row. In the first row, we can see that even we have 2 values. That is -2 and 12. Between these 2 values, we will take the minimum value. We can see that the minimum value between 12 and -2 is the -2. So we have written negative 2. Similarly, we have to fill the remaining values from the second and the third row also. After finding out the minimum of row, now let's fill the maximum of columns. From the maximum of columns, in this we will have the maximum value or the highest value from the two columns, that is B1 and B2. So let's take first column, that is B1. In that particular column we have three values, that is -2, 4 or -4. Between these numbers the maximum value or the highest value is taken. Now you can see that the highest value in these three is +4. So we have written that +4 here. Now moving to column 2, that is B2, we have 12, 8 and -12. So from this we can see that 12 is the highest value or the maximum value. So let's write this value to the matrix. Now we have minimum of rows, players B1, B2, A1, A2, A3 and the maximum of column. We have the complete payoff matrix where we have all the values with minimum of row and maximum of the column. To get the complete solution, we have to find out the maximum and minimax values. So let's first find maximum value. For this, we have to take the value from minimum of rows. Okay, now you can see that from this column we can get the maximum value. For that, we should take the maximum value from -2, 4 and -12. Between these numbers, we can see that 4 is the maximum or the highest value. So now we can write it as the maximum. Next, now let's find minimax value for this. We will take the row called maximum of column. From this particular row, we have to take the most minimum value, that is the lowest value. So we can clearly see that between 4 and 12, 4 is the most minimum value or the lowest value here. So now we will write it as the minimax value. So these are those principles that we just used. So for player A, we are using Maximin, that is, we are trying to maximize the minimum profit. For player B, we are using Minimax, wherein we are trying to minimize the maximum loss. That the highest ones are the two Maximin and Minimax values. Now you can see that Maximin is equal to Minimax. So the value of Maximin is equal to 4 and Minimax is equal to 4. Being these both are the same, in this problem, you can see that both Maximin and Minimax are equal, which means that we have a saddle point. As we know, saddle point is also known as the value of the game. So the value of the game is also 4. So this is how we actually reach to the final solution. Now, let's conclude the solution that we can see that the maximum value is equal to the minimax value. That is, maximum is equal to minimax. So, there is a saddle point and the strategy is known as pure strategy. The optimum strategy for A is A2 and B is B1. That, in the table, we can see that the value of the game is 4 because A is getting the money from B, that is 4. Since it's positive, player B pays ₹4 to player A. Now, let's wind up this session. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the further videos on game theory. Thank you.